And welcome to another hour of CBS Sports HQ. Jeremy St. Louis, happy to have you along with us as we keep things rolling along. We're going to start talking about a team that enters 2021 in the NFL season looking to reclaim their spot among the contenders for the Vince Lombardi Trophy. And that team is the New England Patriots. Now, the past year has not been a kind one to Bill Belichick and company. After watching Tom Brady leave and eventually win another Super Bowl, Belichick and his staff were forced to deal with COVID opt-outs, the most of any team. And for the first time in 2 decades, a losing season. That's why Belichick and company wasted little time making their mark in free agency. According to those close to him, Bill has a plan, and he's executing it to perfection and grabbing the players he needs to get the Pats back into contention. That includes getting some good short and long pass catchers, signing both tight ends Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. They also added wide receivers Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, adding to the defense as well with the signing of linebackers Kyle Van Noy and Matt Judon, along with defensive backs Cody Davis and Jalen Mills. All told, the Pats have spent just shy of $160 million on new faces through free agency. There will likely be more, plus they have draft picks, 10 of them, that they have to use at the end of the month. And for more on where the Pats are at and where they could be going, let's now bring in CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, good to see you. Let's start by getting your thoughts on how Belichick and company have done so far. The reviews are good, especially when you factor in the COVID opt-outs from last season returning for 2021. We'll talk about what they still need to address shortly, but for now, do you like what they've done so far?
Jeremy, it's a little conflicting, and Robert Kraft even admitted as much. You know, for the longest time, the Patriots used to make fun of these teams that were quote unquote winning the offseason by spending a bunch of money and bringing in talent where it was just a massive amount of money flying around. But you gotta like what the Patriots did. I don't necessarily love how they got to this point, which was poor drafting and not really kind of filling out a roster, but you can't deny the talent that they brought in. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Matt Judon on the defensive side. Those are 3 key stars that we're looking at that can really help this team going forward. And when you look at the guys that are coming back and you see this talent that they're bringing in, I think some people forget that this was a 7-win football team last year. I know it wasn't great for Patriot standards, but it wasn't like they were a 3-13 team. When you add this talent in, along with some of the guys that are getting back, specifically Dante Hightower, who opted out last year, this team could be solid in 2021. I don't want to say they're a contender, but they're solid. They're much more improved than they were a year ago.
Yeah, and bringing in guys like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, I mean, we figured they'd bring in one of them, but both of them was kind of a surprise. They also signed Cam Newton to a new 1-year deal, so they appear set to ride with him for at least another season. What is your confidence level in this team with Cam Newton under center?
And that's basically why this gives me pause, because while I think Cam Newton kind of got a raw deal in 2020, he signed late in the summer, he got COVID early in the year, it really kind of put him behind the 8 ball. I still don't know what the arm is going to look like. The Patriots and Josh McDaniels were able to utilize his legs to perfection really in the red zone, and they were able to create some offense there. But as we talk about all this money that they spent in free agency and at the tight end position and at wide receiver, it really doesn't mean much if Cam Newton can't deliver them the football through the air. So to me, that is still a major question mark here. What does his arm strength look like? What does his accuracy look like? Because those were 2 main issues a year ago. And when you look at what the Patriots are bringing in, the tight end position, that should help Cam Newton in 2021. As you remember, in Carolina, him and Greg Olsen had one heck of a connection. So if they can start to do similar things that they did with Greg Olsen with Henry and Jonnu Smith, that should really help Cam Newton in 2021. But as of right now, we just don't know what that's going to look like. So for me, I would say the ceiling is not as high as they would want it to be, but it's a little bit improved than what we saw in 2020.
What kind of insight does it give you in terms of what we might expect to see from this offense with the fact that they went and got Henry and Smith, to kind of complement Cam?
Yeah, it's a lot of 12 personnel, and basically, in layman's terms, 2 tight end sets. You're going to see both these guys on the field at the same time. Again, you're going to shell out a ton of money to these 2 guys. You don't want one on the field and one on the sideline. You're going to have them both out there, and that's something that the Patriots have done in the past with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, and it's really something that they haven't been able to do in recent years. I believe that they were in the bottom 3, if not the worst team in the NFL last year, or the fewest teams that they ran 12 personnel. So when you have a talent like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, two guys that can absolutely ball out when you put the ball in their hands. They're going to be on the field at the same time. It's going to help the running game as well when you have those guys out there blocking. So to me, that's the biggest change that you're going to see. Two tight ends at the same time. They have the personnel to finally get back to the roots that they like to run offensively. So that's probably what the biggest change you're going to see in 2021.
All right, let's talk about the draft because the Patriots have 10 picks for 7 rounds. So what's the biggest need come draft day?
Well, we're kind of dancing around it. It's quarterback, obviously. That's the biggest thing that they need to focus on here. And it's probably going to come, in the draft at some point. We talked about the one-year nature of Cam Newton. He's only on that lone season in 2021. They have to find that long-term option. I don't believe it's going to be Jarrett Stidham. If it was, he would have had a chance to play last year. So to me, it's clearly going to come in the draft at some point. A lot of people speculate it could be at number 15 or somewhere in the first round. Like you said, they have 10 draft picks this year. And because of what they did in free agency, not just by signing guys, but retaining a ton of guys, you can use this collateral now to go up further into the draft boards. And you can obviously take next year's picks as well, and however many you need to vault into that top 10. The Atlanta Falcons are a team that, who own the number 4 overall pick. That would certainly get you in the scenario for a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. Probably the two guys that are going to be available to them if Mac Jones ultimately is picked by the San Francisco 49ers. Both of those guys could be of similar fashion to Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa of a year ago, where they're ready to go and start for your team midway through the regular season. So to me, that is something that the Patriots should monitor. If they believe in one of these guys, they're probably not going to be there at number 15. You'll have to go up and trade for him. And if they like one, I believe they should go do it.
Yeah. As you mentioned, the Falcons ready to trade that 4 pick. And you think if the Patriots are looking QB, they're going to have to move up into the top 5 or 6. Okay, if they don't go quarterback and they stand pat at 15, what other options would they be considering at that position?
Well, the next need is wide receiver. We talked about the tight ends, but they still need that clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. They were hoping that it was going to be N'Keal Harry, the 2019 first-round pick, but it just hasn't materialized to this point. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. He'll probably be in the fold for next year, but it doesn't look like he's going to be that number 1 option. Julian Edelman, as reports have come out, there's some doubt as to whether or not he'll be able to play a full season next year. So you clearly need a number 1 guy. If you're at number 15, you have 2 Alabama guys, Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. There's a clear Belichick-Saban connection. You can connect all those dots. That would be, either one of those guys would be a welcome sight in Foxborough and gives them the possibility to buck a recent trend of really kind of getting a lot of bust at the wide receiver position at the draft. And if they don't go wide receiver, I would quickly just point to Micah Parsons at Penn State. I don't know if he'll be there at number 15, but every good New England Patriots team that I've followed has the number 1 linebacker. And to me, Parsons, if he is that guy that's available, I would go that way too.
Okay, let's talk about what happens after that, rounds 2 through 7. I mean, guys like Brady were picked after rounds 2. So, we've got some diamonds in the rough there. Round 4, a big one for them. Patriots have 3 picks in round 4. Who do you see them targeting the rest of the way?
Well, it's a domino effect. That's what we're saying. If they go the route of a Jalen Waddle or a Devonta Smith or a Micah Parsons in the first round, quarterback becomes the need on day 2 and the rest of the draft. So if you're looking at those kind of next guys, Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M, Kyle Trask out of Florida, those are 2 prospects that I would keep my eye on for New England. Kellen Mond would be more of a project if they want to utilize the mobility that they have of Cam Newton, but somebody with more potential as a passer. That's a prospect that I would keep my eye on. If they want to go back to their roots with a Tom Brady style offense, that's where you would see Kyle Trask get into the fold there. Either one of those guys should be available on day 2 at some point. And then the other way that they would go, probably cornerback. That's another position that I think is quickly going to become of need. Stephon Gilmore has 1 more year left on his deal. They placed a 2nd-round tender on J.C. Jackson. The long-term future for both of those guys seems to be up in the air. So if you go to Eric Stokes out of Georgia, a school that Bill Belichick has picked before, whether it's David Andrews, Isaiah Wynn, or Sony Michel, that's a guy that I would keep my eye on as well. It's just a familiar school for Bill Belichick, and it comes at a position of need.
CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan joining us here to talk about the New England Patriots. Tyler, good to see you. Thanks for hopping on with us. Tyler's latest article all about the prospects for Julian Edelman's 2021 season, dealing with lingering knee injuries. You heard him mention it there. In terms of the Vegas outlook for the New England Patriots for the coming season, to win the Super Bowl, plus 3,000 to win the AFC, plus 1,500 to win the AFC East, plus 375. They are minus 150 to once again miss the postseason.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.